discovered I had this voice. Actually, two voices. That doesn't surprise you? It didn't surprise me because it was natural. I had this very contralto, down to lower voice, where I could sing love songs. And then I had this other voice, where I could soar. And I loved soaring. And I loved singing love. I loved singing anywhere. I could sing almost any song in any key, except for one little thing, somewhere in the middle between my lovely low voice and my ethereal high voice. There was a stop. So I could sing here, 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 to here, and then it kind of somewhere there stopped because I couldn't get from here to there without stopping and going there. Summertime, and the living is easy. Yes. Or I could go, summertime. But I couldn't get from open throat to the top or lower throat from the top to the bottom. And so I decided I had two voices. I was freaky. And wasn't that nice? I could do this one over here. And then I met a man long after I had a lot of success, named Giuseppe Balistrieri, a voice builder. He never said he was a voice teacher. He said he was a voice builder. And I had heard of him, and I thought of him as a voice teacher, you know, or they're going to show you how to do, you know, these guys that teach you how to do this. And I went to him, and he said, sing something for me. So I sang something for him. He said, sing something else for me. I sang something else for him, kind of like I just did for you. And he says, you have an interesting voice. I said, yes, and I haven't decided because I have this freaky voice. And he said, what do you mean you have this freaky voice? I said, well, I have two voices. And he said, what do you mean you have two voices? And I said, well, I can sing. And he started playing something for me, and I started playing. Then he turned over and went to an operatic voice, and I'm looking at it, and he plays it for me, and I'm so where he wants me to go, and I'm going to play some of that. And so he says, well, what are you talking about? You have a beautiful, lovely voice. What do you mean you have two voices? And I says, well, I can't get from there to there. And he said, what are you talking about? I says, well, I have the two voices. The one is the lower, and the other one is the higher. And he sat there and he looked at me, and he says, what do you mean you can't get from there to there? So he goes, da-da-dee-da-da-da, da-dee-dee-da-da. And then he went on up and I jumped. He says, what did you do just there? And I said, I changed voices. And he looked at me. This man who has been teaching voice building for 40 years. And he says, do you think that's have? And I said, yes, and I'm very proud of it. I have these two voices. He started laughing until he fell off the piano stool. He was only about 4'3", so it's a good thing. Like, he didn't have to go so far. He said, you have one voice. And I said, what you talking about, Professor General? And he said, you have one voice. No one has taught you how to move from one to the other. Your talent is not divided. What is wonderful about you is not divided. One complements the other, and the one complements the other complements the one. You just have not learned. And when you leave me, you're going to have one voice and the ability to use both to complement one another. And that's what I think we do. So his exercises were ugly. They had nothing to do with, from the, no. And we're not allowed to tell what it is, because it's an Italian method that has been used from time immemorial. So you can hear a contralto who sings here and goes up into the point in which her voice just seems so natural. And there's no break. And I thought, that's amazing. But it was excruciatingly ugly, because it's not doing ahas, it's doing some things that stops this thing from stopping. And it's like, well, it really is actually training a muscle. And that's how I think of life. If we don't get to here where we want it to be, or there where we want, and wind up here where we want, we need to train that muscle in between.